Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about both episodes of AEW Fyter Fest. And yes, for these reviews I did decide to split off between the companies instead of just doing both Night 1 shows and both Night 2 shows, so there you go. Look out for my NXT Great American Bash review as well. But without any further ado, let's get started. AEW Fyter Fest aired live on July 1st and July 8th, 2020. Both shows from the Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, which is kind of their only venue with the COVID thing going on. But Night 1 kicks off with a special entrance from Chris Jericho, who is the special guest commentator for Night 1. And I will just say this, Jericho was hilarious. I've always thought Chris Jericho was really funny, but I thought his banter with JR, Tony Scavone, as he called him, and the Masked Idiot Excalibur, I thought it was a great dynamic to have. So many great one-liners, and often had me in stitches at some points. But there were points where Jericho's commentary... I'll talk about it when a later match comes on. But the opening contest is a tag team match. The team of MJF and Wardlow taking on the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus representing with Marko Stunt in their corner. Before the match, we get a usual head heel MJF promo. He even drops a line about there being a ratings war and how he's unstoppable when the ratings wars are going on. He's such a great natural heel, man. But yeah, then the Jurassic Express, of course, interrupts the promo, and Marko Stunt, being scared by his own pyro, makes his way down to the ring with his teammates. MJF and Jungle Boy start off the match, picking up right where they left off from their amazing match at Double or Nothing. Once again, a very hot and fast start between the two, great chemistry shown in the ring, until eventually the heels get the heat on Jungle Boy. MJF and Wardlow are a great team. And by the way, the commentators do make note that MJF has never been pinned or submitted in his AEW career. This will be important for later. Jungle Boy eventually gets the hot tag to Luchasaurus, but the referee does not see it. It is a false hot tag. So those of you who watched my podcast on the Royal Rumble 2002, you guys know that I love the false hot tag spot, so it really got a pop from me when I saw it. And this leads to MJF and Wardlow having kind of a friendly contest between themselves on who can hit the better suplex on Jungle Boy. But then Jungle Boy really gets the hot tag on Luchasaurus, and Jericho, of course, with the great line, "Jurassic Park, baby!" And I will say, Luchasaurus really impressed me in this match. He's very agile for a big man. He's hitting really innovative moves like a reverse DVD type maneuver. And the match eventually breaks down at this point. Jungle Boy hits two tope suicidas followed by a tope con hilo. And Luchasaurus follows with a huge plancha to the outside, which really popped me. Back in the ring, the Jurassic Express starts hitting double team maneuvers on MJF. They go for the pin, but Wardlow saves it. Now I will admit, earlier on in the match, Luchasaurus and Wardlow, whenever they interacted, it wasn't the cleanest, especially towards the beginning of the match, but I will admit, those two guys really impressed me by the end. Wardlow especially. He hits a Hurricane Rana at one point. Big guys like Wardlow are not supposed to do that. And Wardlow hits another vicious clothesline, I believe, on Jungle Boy that took his head off. Luchasaurus hits a pop-up powerbomb on MJF. And there's a quadruple kip-up and a standoff. This is the kind of stuff I like to see in an opening match, guys. Can you tell? Eventually, Marko Stunt tries to run interference for his boys, but Wardlow picks him up and pitches him into another atmosphere. I'll see you f***ing later. There were some great near falls near the end of this match. My favorite of them all was when MJF hits a low blow on one of the Jurassics. I can't remember which one. But shortly afterwards, Wardlow hits a swanton bomb. Eventually, the finish comes. MJF pulls out his crafty Dynamite diamond ring. He orders Wardlow to hold up, I believe, Luchasaurus for him to punch him in the mouth with it, but Luchasaurus moves. And MJF clocks Wardlow in the face, and he jaw-jacks with him a little bit. Can you do anything right? Maybe teasing some tension between the two? Maybe. MJF is eventually tossed. Luchasaurus hits almost a black mass kick on Wardlow, followed by a chokeslam and a standing moonsault for the 3 count. Jurassic Express picks up the victory in an incredible opening match. I'm going to give it 3 3/4 stars out of 5. Like I said, great opener, achieved its purpose, pumped up the live audience there. Luchasaurus and Wardlow admittedly did not show great chemistry early on, but they got way better as the match went on. Like I said, tension between MJF and Wardlow was teased, and another thing that I think the announcers forgot to mention, I don't know, I don't exactly remember, it was a week ago at this point, but MJF did not take the pinfall. So even though he lost the tag match, he himself did not lose the match, if that makes sense. So maybe that's what tips him off to him dumping Wardlow to the curb. I don't know, just speculation on my part. But for this match, everybody got their chances to shine. Great stuff here. After this match, there was a little teaser of what was to come after Night 2 was over on TNT. A puppy battle royale. Now, admittedly, I did not watch the puppy battle royale, but from the teaser I saw, the puppies were definitely adorable. There's also a brawl in the crowd area between Lance Archer and Joey Janela, hyping up their battle on Night 2, which I'll be talking about later on in this video. Which leads into our next match for the AEW Women's Championship. The champion Hikaru Shida defends against the challenger Penelope Ford, who has her boyfriend Kip Sabian with her in her corner. Or does she? Because referee Aubrey Edwards immediately ejects Kip Sabian to go back to the locker room. So it is in fact a one-on-one match here for the title. Hikaru Shida out of the gate, quick and intense, hitting a $1 million knee lift onto Ford. Ford eventually retreats to the outside, suckering Shida in. And Penelope Ford was super impressive in this match. She hits a springboard elbow on Shida back in the ring. And she hits a bridged German suplex for a really nice near fall early on. Through the commercial break, Ford retains control. She has Shida in the camel clutch when we come back from the break. But Shida reaches the ropes. And it's at this point that Chris Jericho on commentary gets distracted by the little ticker on the bottom left corner of our screens with the results for Dark. I mean, it was funny, but call the match, dude. As the match picks up and goes towards its conclusion, lots of really nice counter wrestling. Shida hits a backbreaker for a very close 2 count. Shida then does the deed and hits the Falcon Arrow, but Ford rolls through and hits her with an inside cradle. Very close 2 count. Penelope Ford counters a missile dropkick attempt from Shida, Trish Stratus dominatrix style, and she hits a stunner on Shida for 2. And it's after this near fall that Kip Sabian comes back out from the locker room with Shida's patented kendo stick. This is all while Penelope Ford is trying to grab the championship at ringside so she can use it as a weapon, so the referee's distracted. She doesn't see any of this interaction between Kip Sabian and Hikaru Shida. But back to the ring, Penelope Ford then hits another cutter on Shida for another 2 count. Ford then misses a moonsault because Shida gets her knees up. Then Shida successfully hits a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. I forget who said this on commentary, but they said nobody kicks out of the Falcon Arrow. And all I was thinking was, that's a lie. So many people have kicked out of the Falcon Arrow over these last few years. Eventually, after the Falcon Arrow, Shida hits another really hard knee strike to knock Penelope Ford out, and that's what gets the 3 count. Such a better match than I was expecting. I think everybody was expecting this match to be almost next to nothing, but these girls proved everybody wrong. I'm going to give this match 3 3/4 stars out of 5. There were some very good near falls throughout this match. Hikaru Shida was Hikaru Shida, very good. Penelope Ford showed a lot of promise in this match. She surprised the heck out of me. If not the best match, it's at least a contender for match of the night. Great stuff here. From then on, we go to the AEW TNT Championship Match as the American Nightmare, the defending champion Cody with Arn Anderson in his corner, defends against Jake Hager with his wife, I believe, Catalina, in his corner. Cody Rhodes comes out with my favorite theme in all of AEW right now, Kingdom by Downstate. I love that thing so much. And he comes out with an old school Great American Bash WCW logo tee, but instead it says the American Nightmare Cody. Dare I say a direct shot. It is a cool looking t-shirt though. I kind of want one myself. Justin Roberts announces as per there's only a 20-minute time limit for this title bout as opposed to the usual 60. There was some really nice chain wrestling throughout this thing, and both of these guys, the biggest praise that I can give this match is that both of them played their roles extremely well. Jake Hager looked incredibly dominant and lethal throughout this whole thing. Cody Rhodes is the never say die babyface, in peril, selling the attack. Phenomenal. But there's some really nice chain wrestling between the two throughout. Jake Hager at one point denies Cody's leapfrog and he MMAs him in the corner. Again, great selling by Cody Rhodes here, making Jake Hager look so lethal here. Cody tries a victory roll at one point and gets a 2 count because Jake Hager grabs him for an ankle lock, which Cody eventually counters into an ankle lock of his own. Hager eventually reaches the ropes and we go outside the ring. Hager's distracted by Arn Anderson at ringside. This will be important later. Cody ends up taking advantage of the distraction with a beautiful springboard dive to the outside. Back into the ring, Cody locks on the figure 4. Jake Hager eventually fights out of it. And then Cody hits a disaster kick, but Jake Hager does not go down. Cody goes for another disaster kick. He's caught in a tremendous counter by Hager into a double leg takedown. Super clean. Back outside now, Hager chokes out Arn Anderson and hits a back suplex on Cody on the outside. That's gotta hurt. Hager retains control through the commercial break, and Catalina, his wife, at ringside, ends up stepping on Cody's back with some sharp high heels, which had to hurt. Back outside once again for Hager, and Arn Anderson distracts him again, which leads to Cody posting Hager head first. I think you're noticing a pattern here with Arn Anderson's distractions. And Jericho notices Arn Anderson's distractions, and he starts losing it on commentary. This will be important later. Jake Hager eventually back in the ring locks in a sleeper hold on Cody. A scary looking bump for Cody as he rolls through into the Bret Hart WrestleMania 8 roll-up. That gets two. Lots of great near falls at this point in the match. Hager bombs, power slams, Cody uses the belt, bicycle kicks, all near falls here. But eventually the finish comes around. Hager slaps on the ankle lock yet again. Cody reaches the ropes, but Catalina slaps him from the outside. And then Arn Anderson gets up on the apron, starts distracting the ref. Out comes Dustin Rhodes with a sharp punch to the face of Hager. Cody Rhodes goes for the crossroads, but Jake Hager hits a sit-out Uranagi, which ends up with Cody rolling through. In a controversial pin, Cody Rhodes defeats Jake Hager by pinfall here. And you notice, Jake Hager, the heel, got screwed in this situation. He punches out the referee. He ends up suspended for God knows how long after this. I give this match 3 stars out of 5. Now, this was a really well-worked match. Like I said, the biggest praise I can give it is that both guys played their roles extremely well. Their alignments, superb. My biggest issue with this match comes with the booking of it. They made it look like Jake Hager, the heel, got screwed out of the title. I mean, yeah, the controversial finish was kind of expected to make Hager look as dominant as he was, to make him look strong in defeat. But he looked like such a beast in this match. I kind of actually wanted him to win the title. But the way this match was booked, Jake Hager was screwed. Plain and simple, he was screwed. He got beaten down 3-on-1 basically, and then he's rolled through and pinned controversially to the point where he punches out a referee. I don't know, man. I mean, this match was well worked. You can tell I did not like the way this match was booked, and even worse, Chris Jericho was on commentary. If he was so pissed off about Arn Anderson's interference, he could have easily gotten up and hit a Judas effect on him. This match, the more I think about it, the more it bugs me, honestly, the way it was booked. Definitely a well-worked match. No disrespect to the workers at all. I just did not like how it was booked, guys. So yeah, in the end, the babyface gets the fluke victory and the heel gets screwed. Psychology at its finest. It's a greatly worked match though, but personally, in terms of overall storytelling and the work, I liked Cody's match at Double or Nothing against Lance Archer much more than this. But I don't know, we'll see what comes of it. At this point, Orange Cassidy makes his entrance. He just comes out, he's sitting with the commentators. He's not really bugging anybody. Chris Jericho is trying his best to keep his composure. Really funny reactions, and Orange Cassidy is just not even acknowledging that Jericho's there almost. Pretty much just to hype up the match next week. From then on, we go to another tag team contest as Santana and Ortiz, who, where were they during Jake Hager's match? They're part of the Inner Circle now too, aren't they? But anyway, Santana Ortiz taking on the Private Party, who are accompanied by Broken Matt Hardy. Now, can someone explain to me where this alliance between Hardy and the Private Party came from? Because I'm still kind of confused about it. But the announcers were all playing up the history that these 4 men have together, and it definitely showed. Great athleticism and great chemistry from all 4 men involved here. Lots of planchas early on. The heels eventually get heat on Isaiah Cassidy through the commercial break. And the picture-in-picture commercial break eventually catches Mark Quenn's hot tag in. And the picture-in-picture shows us some great high-flying athleticism and a quadruple submission hold. But eventually there's another hot tag. Cassidy is fired up. He hits a corkscrew plancha on the 2 to the outside. Cassidy hits a huge swanton bomb for 2. Leads up to a great double-team powerbomb sequence from Santana and Ortiz. Cassidy is pinned. Mark Quinn comes in and breaks it up. I actually might have mixed it up at that point, but you get my drift. Matt Hardy at ringside pays dividends. He takes Santana and Ortiz's foreign objects away. But the finish comes, Santana's on the top rope, and I forget who it was. It was either Quinn or Cassidy up top there with him, but they pull the bandana that he's wearing up over Santana's eyes. And there's a beautiful double team finisher from the Private Party. Ortiz very, very close to breaking up the pinfall, but Private Party hence wins the match. This match was very fun. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I think this match would have been an instant classic without the commercial breaks, which is no fault of anybody really, but a lot of the big spots in this match were caught on the picture-in-picture. A lot of the big spots were in that commercial break. I just think that this match would have been better on a pay-per-view. Good stuff, though, nevertheless. Jericho and Orange Cassidy after the match. Jericho is 0 for 2 with the inner circle on the night. And the two get into it at the commentary table at the end. I just love how Chris Jericho is freaking out over Orange Cassidy even being there. And Orange is just being Orange. You can't really get any better than that. But there's also an announcement in between that Jon Moxley and Brian Cage's AEW World Championship match will not be taking place on Night 2 of Fyter Fest, but instead at Fight for the Fallen. And Taz is incensed. He comes out with Brian Cage to cut a promo on Jon Moxley, basically scolding him for testing negative for COVID-19 both times, claiming that he's scared of the machine, and that AEW does not run a sloppy shop, which is a line that really cuts deep. And that's all I'll say on the matter. Which, of course, brings us to the main event of Night 1 for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. The champions Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defending against the Best Friends. First off, such an amazing entrance for the Best Friends. Trent's mom is driving them in an SUV, almost like she's dropping them off at elementary school or something. And she says, "You kids have fun." So great. But this has the interesting dynamic of babyface versus babyface for the tag team titles. Great chain segment between Chucky T and Kenny to start off. Paige and Trent are tagged in. They have a nice chain sequence of their own. Eventually, the champions get the heat on Trent, which is interesting. Hangman hits a standing shooting star for 2. It's at this point that FTR comes out with lawn chairs to observe the action. Chucky T is eventually tagged in and hits a tope con hilo, which is a beautiful move. And there is a really hard suplex on Kenny Omega on the outside, a cannonball, and Kenny Omega ends up, I think, on the barricade, and then Page is cannonballed into Omega while he's resting against the barricade, which is a really scary spot. But this is where the big spots really start to pick up. Adam Page throws a mean lariat. Kenny Omega is tagged in. He hits a stiff missile dropkick on Trent and then a Fisherman's Buster for a near fall. Trent counters a Lionsault and he hits a Busaiku knee on Omega. Tags in Chucky T and a spike pile driver. Kenny Omega was getting absolutely slaughtered in this match. The pin broken up by Adam Page. And there's a great call by Jim Ross at this point that the referee is being very lenient, if I can say that word, I swear. Lenient on the 10 count for the double team. There is a strong 0 on Adam Page, but Kenny Omega breaks up the pinfall. And there is a very good near fall with Trent rolling up Page. Man, these guys had such great chemistry. The Deadeye eventually gets 2. Like I said, some really great near falls, but eventually the finish comes. Adam Page hits a vicious buckshot lariat, and that does it for the 3 count. I give this match 4 out of 5 stars. There were a lot of people that preferred the women's title match over this, and while that was very good, I actually really liked this match even more. I think the Best Friends looked absolutely amazing in this match, even in defeat. Kenny Omega was getting slaughtered in this, like I said, but he was his great usual self. And I personally think Adam Page was the MVP of this match. He looked so amazing here. His ceiling is so high. I can't wait to see what else this team does, which will play into the first match of Night 2, which I'll talk about in just a second. But overall, I'll give Night 1 of AEW Fyter Fest a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely a lot of good wrestling on this show. But what loses points for it is, unfortunately, the TNT title match, which I've gone into detail about. I mean, I could write a whole essay on my problems with the booking of the match. But nevertheless, the work throughout the night, the wrestling inside the ring, consistently great all night long. Really well-paced show as well from start to finish. Very easy one to sit through. But that brings us into Night 2 of Fyter Fest, which kicks off with another AEW World Tag Team title match. Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page this time defending against the Private Party, who still has Broken Matt in their corner. And even a week after their match against Santana and Ortiz, I am still very confused as to why Broken Matt is with them. But we have yet another babyface versus babyface dynamic here, a friendly handshake between Omega and Mark Quinn to start. Early on, once again, some really great chain wrestling between these guys. There's a really fun spot where there's a volleying match of knife-edge chops between the champions on Mark Quinn, pretty much saying who can chop him the hardest. A bridging fallaway slam by Adam Page for 2. Adam Page is so awesome. But the Private Party eventually starts fighting back. A huge spike DDT on Kenny Omega. He sells it like he's been hit by a gun. Adam Page eventually powerbombs Mark Quinn into the crowd. A huge tope plancha by Cassidy onto the whole pile. This is a really fun opener. Eventually the champions regain control. The challengers are stacked up Some great double team action by the champions. A discus elbow by Adam Page. But the challengers eventually make a brief comeback and hit a double Spanish fly. Great near fall there. I've never seen a double Spanish fly before, so I popped for that spot pretty huge. Eventually, the Booyah strikes between Omega and Cassidy in the center leads to a sling blade neckbreaker by Cassidy for 2. There were some really great sequences at this point. Springboard pay dirts by Marko, Pele kicks, springboard 450s. I mean, you had it all here. There was one point at this stage of the match where I legitimately forgot who was legal. And that's where I think this match loses points for me. The match just kind of broke down a little too much and it turned into almost a tornado-style match. No more tagging in and out. I don't know. I really enjoyed this match. It's just a little nitpick I had. Marko eventually hits a shooting star press on Adam Page. Very close 2 count as Omega breaks it up. Omega then hits the V-trigger on Isaiah Cassidy. Page with a Liger bomb on Quinn, eventually leading to the last call double team finisher by the champions. And that should do it with the 3 count. Great opener, 4 stars out of 5 from me. Again, the match loses points for me for breaking down a little bit too much and a little bit of breaking the rules here and there, and the referee ignoring said breaking of the rules. But overall, lots of close near falls, lots of innovative spots here. I really had fun with this match, and the Private Party even looked great in defeat. Great chemistry between these 2 teams. I'd like to see them face off again at some point in the future. It's one of the better face versus face matches you'll see. I actually feel like if I really thought about it, I think I liked this match more than the match against the Best Friends. Great stuff here. From then on, we go to Lance Archer versus Joey Janela. Lance Archer makes a fast entrance by throwing Sunny Kiss into Joey Janela, and Lance starts beating up Joey at ringside. Joey eventually makes a brief comeback. He's hitting baseball slides on him. And a huge diving crossbody to the floor by Joey. And it's at this point that Joey Janela grabs a table. This match was not no disqualification. Just making that clear from the get-go. This match is not, I repeat, a no disqualification match. Just making sure that's clear. But then Joey grabs a steel chair from ringside. What is going on? Joey ascends to the top rope. The referee was really great to stop Joey and grabs the chair from him. And Lance Archer pushes Joey off the top rope, eventually leading to a vicious pounce from Lance Archer. And that bump looked really scary. Joey pretty much, on impact, gets hit by the pounds and he ricochets off of the ropes. Oh man, that looked like a scary spot there. But glad to see he's okay, up to the point when Lance Archer clotheslines Joey into the ropes so that Joey's neck pretty much comes into contact with the top rope on impact. Again, looks pretty painful. But Lance Archer at this point is beating the tar. He is mugging this poor man at this point. Loud knife edge chops. Huge bear paw right in the mug, buddy. And Archer retains control through the commercial. And there was lots of outside action during the commercial break that I wish we would have seen. They showed us when we came back, but there was no picture-in-picture like there was the week before. Joey Janela makes a brief comeback. He hits a couple of clotheslines, does not knock Archer off of his feet. Archer eventually reverses a clothesline into a tilt-a-whirl transition. Really beautiful transition, actually, into the blackout. But Joey counters it for a beautiful, very close near fall. Joey then starts making his big comeback here. Lots of hard elbow strikes, lots of super kicks. And that's when Jake the Snake Roberts, who's in Lance Archer's corner, jumps up on the apron, starts distracting the referee. But Sunny Kiss jumps up to the top rope and hits a 450 splash on Lance Archer. And a very close near fall for Joey with a distraction that almost backfired. But eventually he gets to the finish. Lance Archer's on the apron, Joey jumps up, and Lance Archer hits a blackout on Joey from the inside to the outside. Joey goes through the table. There is no disqualification called by the referee, and it's a pinfall win for Archer. Not a DQ. Remember, this match was not billed as no disqualification, but yet they could use the table anyway just fine. Nevertheless, cool spot to end it. I wish the match had better psychology than just... I mean, they could have just announced this as a street fight and I would have been fine with it. It would have been a much better match. But as it is, it's very stiff, very physical, very fun match. I just wish it would have been billed differently as a street fight or something. I'm going to give this match 3 stars out of 5. It's at this point we get another very good Taz promo hyping up the Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley match at Fight for the Fallen for the AEW World title. And Taz decides to present Brian Cage with the old school FTW World Championship from his days in ECW. Because he says Brian Cage should not be walking into the match empty-handed. So does this mean that next week there's going to be a winner-take-all match? I don't know. I think this is a pretty cool moment, though. Very good promo. From then on, we go to the 8-man tag team match as the Young Bucks and FTR go up against the Lucha Brothers, the Butcher, and the Blade. This match is definitely interesting because the commentators played up the Twitter war that the Young Bucks had with FTR a few years back, and it's interesting that they're all teaming together now. But Dax Harwood starts off with Pentagon Jr., lots of really nice chain wrestling sequences, frequent tags from FTR. FTR is such an amazing team. I'm so glad to see them thriving in AEW at this point. But Pentagon Jr. hits a hard knife-edge chop, probably the loudest I've ever heard a knife-edge chop. And the Lucha Brothers are abusing Dax Harwood at this point. Really, really amazing stuff already. Lots of high-flying Lucha things. But FTR comes back with the hard-hitting style that they're known for. Hard clotheslines from them, near falls galore. Matt Jackson blind tags himself in, though. Tension, perhaps? Rey Fenix ends up tagging in Blade. In comes Nick Jackson. A beautiful, beautiful double-team backbreaker by the Bucks here. And at this point, this is where the match starts to break down. I have so many notes about this match. A great double team maneuver by Pentagon and the Butcher, surprisingly. There is an unreal spot, an unreal springboard Hurricane Rana by Nick Jackson on Rey Fenix out of the corner. They go from the second rope, spring up to the third rope, and then Nick Hurricane Rana's Fenix off the top. That gets a 2 count. Unreal spot there. Back from commercial, great teamwork by all 4 faces. Matt Jackson hits a standing sliced bread. It looks like Matt's going to go for a moonsault onto Fenix, but instead he hits a flying crossbody to the outside on Butcher and Blade. Great fake out there. But back into the ring, Matt ends up hitting a flying elbow drop on Fenix for, I believe, a near fall. At this point, Dax Harwood is legal against the Blade. Huge DDT by Dax at this point. And Dax Harwood and Matt Jackson hit double super kicks on the Butcher. Awesome spot there. Reminded me of NXT TakeOver Orlando when DIY and the Revival were, or FTR now. It reminded me when those guys and DIY were teaming up and doing their finishers intermingling with each other. I loved seeing that here with the super kicks. Rey Fenix comes off and hits a springboard dropkick on the 2, but he turns into a Shatter Machine. I think it's still called the Shatter Machine, but what was the Shatter Machine? Cash Wheeler hits it with Nick Jackson. I popped huge for that. Nick and Dax hit what is almost a Meltzer driver on one of their opponents. I can't remember which one. But Pentagon breaks up the 3 count. Very close near fall there. Lots of really fun spots. The match starts to break down. The Bucks, I think it's the Bucks, they go for a Meltzer driver, but Rey walks the tightrope. He breaks up the Meltzer driver, and then he hits a Canadian Destroyer on Nick from the top rope onto the whole pile. Holy shit. Amazing spot. But the finish comes, I believe Dax was holding Pentagon, if I remember right. But Matt goes for a super kick, Pentagon moves, and he accidentally hits Dax right in the mouth with a super kick, which leads into an OP driver from the Lucha Brothers, and that gets the 3 count on Matt Jackson. 4.5 stars out of 5. This was an incredible match. The high spots, the storytelling, the teamwork, everything about this match just clicked on all cylinders for me. I think it's one of the most fun 8-man tags you'll ever see. Plenty of great finishers, plenty of great near falls throughout. And I was actually kind of surprised that the heels won, but the way the finish was booked was great. Only one miscue between the faces is what ended up losing them the match. I love that booking. Honestly, this first hour of Night 2 was probably the best first hour of Dynamite that I can remember in a long time. But this 8-man tag was, truthfully, probably my favorite match on all of Fyter Fest. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely seek this one out over all else. Wonderful, wonderful match here. And there was a little teaser of Cody on the Hot Ones TV show. As a big fan of that YouTube show, I am so ready to watch that. From then on, we go to a handicap match. Nyla Rose in action against 2 jobbers. I wonder who's going to win this match, honestly. But Nyla Rose basically manhandles both of her opponents. Huge spear. There were some creative spots thrown in, but 0.5 star out of 5 for this one. This match was exactly what it needed to be, putting over Nyla Rose big. Not really much to say about it. Nyla Rose pins both opponents after hitting her finisher. But after the match is what's noteworthy. Nyla Rose gets on the mic and she starts talking about how she wants to regain the championship and how she has actually signed on with a manager. She drops some hints, but she's not ready to announce who that manager is yet. I think based on the hints, I think that manager is going to end up being Vicky Guerrero, but I'm not entirely sure. Just a prediction, so don't quote me on that. We cut backstage to Colt Cabana, who is being checked out with a gruesome, humongous bruise on his abdomen area. And the doctors basically clear him to wrestle, and Brody Lee basically comes in and he, Mr. McMahon style, tells him to go get ready for the match. Which leads us into said 6-man tag team match. Mr. Brody Lee and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order teaming up with Colt Cabana to go up against SCU. And this was a very good match as well. Christopher Daniels starts the match off with Stu Grayson, who, by the way, really impressed me in this match. I was really surprised with this performance. Some nice chain wrestling to start off. Daniels eventually hits a beautiful tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Stu. He tags in Frankie Kazarian. Kazarian hits a beautiful release German suplex for a near fall. Scorpio Sky is then tagged in. Frequent tags for great tag teams. SCU is one of those great tag teams. They were the inaugural AEW tag champs for a reason, guys. But Stu Grayson surprises everybody with a huge Pele kick on Scorpio Sky. Eventually, Colt Cabana is tagged in, and Colt Cabana's selling in this match was so awesome. Even as Scorpio Sky grabbed him for a German suplex, Colt was in such aggravating pain. Stu Grayson eventually hits a cheap kick to the back of Scorpio Sky. The match starts to break down a little bit. Brody Lee obliterates Sky with a back suplex, and that's when the heels start to isolate Scorpio Sky, and the heat is there. Goes to a commercial break. The heels retain control throughout. And let me just say that the heels had such really great teamwork. Lee hits a beautiful Michinoku driver, leading into a really impressive frog splash from Stu Grayson for a near fall. Colt once again selling his injuries, and there's a hot tag to Frankie Kazarian. There's a really nice sequence between Kaz and Brody Lee. It eventually gets to a point where Brody hits Kaz with a really hard black hole slam. I believe Daniels was tagged in around this point. Daniels hits a really nice tope suicida to a big pile on the outside. He hits the BME inside the ring on Stu, but the pinfall attempt is broken up by Colt Cabana, who once again is selling his injuries incredibly. Daniels checks on him to see if he's okay. I think the referee got distracted at this point. Enough for Brody Lee to hit a huge discus lariat on Daniels, knocking him out cold. Brody Lee orders Stu to tag in Colt Cabana and for him to make the pinfall on Daniels, which he does. The Dark Order wins. Very good match here. 3.25 stars out of 5. For the purposes of what they were telling here, Colt's basically initiation into the Dark Order, I think that's where they're going with this. But as far as the story they're telling here, it was a very good story, very good selling from Colt Cabana throughout as well. Really great action as well. I really enjoyed this. There is a rundown of the Fight for the Fallen card next week on Dynamite. Look forward to a review of that on this channel as well. And that leads into the main event of Night 2 of Fyter Fest. Chris Jericho going one-on-one with Orange Cassidy. Oh boy. Orange Cassidy comes out along with the best friends from wherever, weighing whatever. He sends the best friends to the back. He says he's got this. Chris Jericho makes his entrance along with Floyd the baseball bat and Santana and Ortiz in his corner. Maybe a mistake by Freshly Squeezed. Before the bell even rings, we get a shot of Santana drinking orange juice at ringside, which got a chuckle out of me. Orange puts his hands in his pockets, the patented hands in the pockets, and he goes for that tope suicida on Jericho, and he nails it. Now, keep in mind, this is not your usual comedy match with Orange Cassidy. So if you're going into this match expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. Orange Cassidy has control over Jericho on the outside. Eventually, they go back into the ring. Great counter by Jericho into the walls, which Orange eventually escapes. And once Orange reaches the ropes, Jericho, of course, as per, argues with referee Aubrey Edwards. And during the distraction, Santana hits Orange with a foreign object, which leads to a 1 count for Jericho. Again, I love this psychology of the 1 counts earlier on in the match, and then as the match goes longer, that's when you start getting those closer near falls. And we get the great, amazing spot of Chris Jericho mocking Orange, putting his hands in his pockets. So great. Jericho is basically beating the shit out of this poor man for a lot of this part of the match, but there's a lot of really nice athleticism from Orange Cassidy. A lot of really close near falls at this point, a roll up and a cradle for the upset win almost. Some really amazing athleticism from Orange Cassidy, and that's actually genuine. It's not sarcastic like your usual Orange match where he's just like very gingerly kicking the shins, which I love. I love that gimmick. But for a match against Chris Jericho, this match could not be that for as long as the usual Orange match. And I thought this match was amazing. Orange Cassidy is eventually distracted by Santana and Ortiz, enough for Jericho to hit a baseball slide on Orange. And on impact, Orange's momentum takes him face first into the guardrail, which looked scary. Orange Cassidy starts his comeback after Jericho retains control through the commercial. There is an abdominal stretch by Jericho on Orange, and he's using the top rope for leverage, grabbing onto it. The referee keeps noticing this, and she at one point kicks Jericho's arm, and his momentum allows Orange to hit a nice hip toss on Jericho. Jericho eventually starts getting really cocky about everything. He does the little, come on, baby, cocky pin on him for 2, of course. I've never seen that win a match ever. But Orange eventually starts making his comeback with a Hurricane Rana, and there goes the hands in the pockets. And there goes those really patented, amazing kicks to the tibia of Jericho. And then Orange hits an actual super kick for a very close near fall. Orange eventually hits a money shot as well for another close near fall. You get where I'm going with this. Orange Cassidy was very, very close to upsetting Jericho at lots of points in this match. Jericho goes for that vintage springboard dropkick while Orange is standing on the apron, but Orange ducks and Jericho takes a hard tumble to the outside. Orange then hits a springboard plancha to everybody out there. A diving DDT on Jericho gains him another close near fall, and there goes the elbow pad. And then there's the great transition into another Walls of Jericho. Orange transitions out of the walls, rolls up for 2. And at this point, Santana splashes Orange in the face with the OJ that he was drinking. And for the rest of the match, there is this big puddle of OJ on one side of the ring. It was kind of... It was actually a pretty great touch, thinking about it. And once that happens, here comes the best friends from out of the locker room to even the odds. They all start brawling on the outside. The referee's kind of distracted by the commotion, enough for Jericho to bring out Floyd the baseball bat. He clocks Orange in the head with it, then hits the code breaker for a near fall. What? Jericho misses a lion salt. Orange hits a Michinoku driver for another close near fall. And then he hits a stun dog millionaire swinging DDT. Another near fall for Orange Cassidy. He is so close to getting this big win. But alas, Chris Jericho hits a Judas effect out of nowhere. Nobody kicks out of the Judas effect. That's it. Jericho gets the pinfall victory on Orange Cassidy. 4 stars out of 5. I love this match. Like I said, if anybody goes into this match expecting your usual Orange Cassidy type comedy throughout the whole thing, we do get some of that, but it's very, very selective and very, very minimal. His comedy matches are great, but I can argue that this was the best match of Orange Cassidy's career. I wouldn't go out and say that this was Jericho's best match of his career like he's touting it to be, but nevertheless, I definitely love this match, a worthy main event of Night 2. I'm going to give Night 2 of Fyter Fest an 8.5 out of 10. I thought this was a better show than Night 1 for sure. Consistently throughout the night, it was a better booked show than Night 1, with the action still fast and furious throughout the evening. Great stuff from AEW here. I can't wait to watch Fight for the Fallen. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this review of AEW Fyter Fest. Thank you all so much for tuning in, as always. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. You guys are the best, as always. Thank you so much again. Look forward to more reviews very soon. Keep an eye out for my review of NXT Great American Bash, as well as my review for next week's Fight for the Fallen. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.